Most people think staying at home is laziness. No ambition, no social life, no growth. Wrong. Some of the most focused, mentally stable, and high-performing people spend most of their time alone. At home. Writers, programmers, deep thinkers. Even top investors like Warren Buffett spend 80% of their time reading alone. So what do they know that you don't? Why does staying home, something society labels as boring, actually create an unfair psychological advantage? I'm about to show you exactly what that advantage is. And by the end of this, you'll never look at staying home the same way again. Chapter 1. The silence advantage. You chase stimulation all day. Notifications, conversations, noise, movement, chaos. Your brain never shuts up. But here's the problem, though. Your brain isn't designed for constant input. Neuroscientist Daniel Levitin explains that every interruption forces your brain to switch context, and each switch burns glucose, energy. That's why you feel tired, even when you've done nothing important. Most people think energy comes from sleep. Wrong. Energy comes from focus without interruption. Now compare that to someone who stays home. No crowded cafes, no forced conversations, no random distractions, just silence. And silence does something powerful. It restores your cognitive bandwidth. A study from the University of California found it takes 23 minutes to refocus after a distraction. 23 minutes. Now imagine you get interrupted every 5 minutes. Do the math. You never actually focus. But someone at home? They drop into what Cal Newport calls deep work. Long, uninterrupted concentration. This is where real thinking happens. This is where skills compound. This is where average people lose and homebodies win. They're not more disciplined. They just remove the noise. Chapter 2. The dopamine reset. You're addicted. Not to drugs, to stimulation. Scrolling, music, videos, constant novelty, cheap dopamine. And it's destroying your ability to enjoy anything slow. Reading feels boring. Thinking feels painful. Being alone feels uncomfortable. Most people think staying home makes you more bored. Wrong. It resets your dopamine system. Psychologist Dr. Anna Lemke explains this clearly. The more dopamine you consume, the less sensitive your brain becomes. So you need more stimulation, just to feel normal. That's why you can't sit still. That's why you can't focus. That's why your brain feels fried. But someone who spends more time at home, less stimulation, fewer inputs, more baseline reset. And suddenly, books become interesting again. Thinking becomes enjoyable. Silence becomes peaceful. They didn't become smarter. Their brain just started working properly again. But here's the problem, though. Even if you remove distractions, your mind can still wander. That's where the next advantage comes in. Chapter 3. The self-reflection loop. Most people avoid themselves. They stay busy, stay distracted, stay surrounded. Because silence forces one thing, self-awareness, and that's uncomfortable. Carl Jung said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." That's most people. They run from their thoughts. But people who stay home, they sit with them. And this creates a massive psychological advantage. Because self-reflection builds clarity. You start noticing patterns. Why you procrastinate. Why you react emotionally. Why you repeat the same mistakes. Most people think growth comes from doing more. Wrong. Growth comes from understanding yourself better. A Harvard study found that people who regularly reflect on their experiences improve performance by up to 23%. 23%. Just by thinking. No extra work, no extra effort. Just awareness. That's what home environments allow. Time to think, time to process, time to correct. While everyone else is reacting to life, you're understanding it. Midpoint trigger, by the way. If you're starting to realize how much mental energy you're wasting every day, hit subscribe before you forget. We fix broken thinking here. Chapter 4. The energy conservation system. You think productivity is about doing more. Wrong. It's about wasting less energy. Every time you go out, interact, respond, react, your brain spends energy. Socializing isn't free. Decision-making isn't free. Even small talk drains cognitive resources. Psychologist Roy Baumeister calls this ego depletion. Your willpower is limited. You burn it all day, then wonder why you can't focus at night. But people who stay home, they conserve energy, fewer decisions, fewer interactions, fewer emotional fluctuations. And that saved energy gets redirected into learning, into creating, into thinking deeply. That's why some people can work 6 hours straight, while you can barely last 20 minutes. It's not discipline, it's energy management. And you're leaking it everywhere. Chapter 5. The identity shift. Here's something nobody tells you. Environment shapes identity. You become what your environment reinforces. If you're always outside, you become reactive, social, stimulus-driven. If you're always at home, you become internal, reflective, controlled. Most people think identity is fixed. Wrong. It's trained every day through repetition. James Clear talks about this in Atomic Habits. Every action is a vote for the type of person you become. Now think about this. When you spend time alone, you rely on your own thoughts. You entertain yourself. You solve your own problems. That builds self-sufficiency. And self-sufficiency builds confidence. Not fake confidence, real confidence. The kind that doesn't depend on validation. The kind that doesn't collapse when you're alone. Most people can't handle being alone for 10 minutes. That's not normal. That's dependency. But here's the thing, though. Being alone can go wrong. Very wrong. Chapter 6. The dark side most people miss. Staying home isn't automatically powerful. It can also destroy you. Isolation can turn into avoidance. Reflection can turn into overthinking. Silence can turn into anxiety. Psychologists call this rumination. When you think, but don't resolve. You loop, you spiral, you get stuck. So what separates powerful solitude from destructive isolation? Structure. High performers who stay home don't just sit around. They operate with systems, reading blocks, thinking time, skill-building routines. They control their environment. They don't let it control them. That's the difference. Average people stay home and drift. Elite people stay home and build. Same environment, different outcome. Chapter 7. The scarcity effect. Here's the final advantage. And this one changes everything. Scarcity creates value. When you go out all the time, social interaction becomes cheap, meaningless, replaceable. But when you stay home most of the time, interaction becomes rare, and rare becomes valuable. You choose carefully who you see, what you do, where you go. Psychologist Robert Cialdini proved this with the scarcity principle. The less available something is, the more we value it. So when homebodies step out, they're more intentional, more present, more engaged, while everyone else distracted, drifting, half present. So ironically, people who stay home often have better social experiences than those constantly chasing them. Final loop. Now you understand something most people don't. Staying home isn't weakness. It's leverage. Silence improves focus. Low stimulation resets your brain. Reflection builds clarity. Energy conservation increases output. Environment shapes identity. Scarcity increases value. But here's the problem, though. Knowing this changes nothing. Most people hear this and go right back to distraction because their brain is addicted. And if you don't fix that, none of this matters. That's why I made another video breaking down exactly how to rewire your brain. Eliminate distractions and build unstoppable focus. It's almost unfair. Watch it next.